André Rieu, the ever-smiling king of the waltz, and a whirlwind of joy, is known for his breathtaking performances and timeless melodies. He has helped to lift millions to their feet, year after year, city after city. From the outside, his life is pure magic, glittering costumes, soaring melodies, and waves of thunderous applause from adoring fans. But behind all that sparkle, André's been fighting a very different battle, and not the kind you can just waltz your way out of. At 75, the man who built a global empire on happiness is facing his toughest battle yet, a battle against the very limits of his own body. He had a sudden health scare in the middle of a performance, and this has left fans around the globe stunned and deeply worried about what lies ahead. So, what exactly is going on with the Waltz King? Let's find out.
Is intussen 3. 6 moeten luiers. I'm so happy to announce my new album, Happy Together, when my orchestra and I were finally able to get together.
To understand the immense pressure André Rieu has put on himself for over 40 years, you have to go back to the beginning. Not to a concert hall, but to a quiet home in Maastricht, Netherlands, a home filled with music but not so much joy. André was born right into the rigid, no-nonsense world of classical tradition. His father, André Rieu Sr., was the conductor for the Maastricht Symphony Orchestra. He was a man who lived and breathed discipline, precision, and that very formal, very serious brand of classical music that leaves zero space for giggles or casual affection. In that house, there was no "good job, son," and definitely no hugs after a practice session. In interview after interview, André has been brutally honest about what it was like growing up in that atmosphere. And honestly, it's heartbreaking. In a revealing conversation with Irish broadcaster Gay Byrne, André admitted that his father never once told him, "I love you," never said he was proud of him, and never even showed up to one of his concerts, even after André became a worldwide superstar, selling out arenas. Imagine that. You're out there on stage, playing for tens of thousands of people, and the one person whose approval you've been chasing since you were 5 years old is just absent. And that's the part that hits the hardest, because André picked up a violin when most kids were still learning to tie their shoes. For a young boy with a conductor father, you'd think hearing "I'm proud of you" would be the ultimate reward. But instead of that validation, there was this constant echoing silence. And that silence didn't just fade away when André got famous. It followed him, shaped him, and, in a way, probably fueled his obsession with perfection. Because when you've spent your whole life trying to earn love that never comes, you start to believe you have to be extraordinary just to be enough. André has said before that in his house, music wasn't really a choice, it was a rule. Every single one of the 6 Rieu kids got pushed into it. Not as a gift, not as a passion, but as this unshakable family duty, like it was part of the job description for being born into that house. And for little André, that sucked the magic right out of it. See, even as a kid, he could feel there was something off about the way his family approached music. Here, you've got these gorgeous, emotional waltzes, music that can make people cry, fall in love, or get swept away in a daydream. And yet the people performing it looked like they were solving math equations in their heads. No smiles, no warmth, no spark. Just stone faces. And it wasn't just about the music. André has described his parents as very complicated people, which is basically the polite way of saying, yeah, things were messy. He's even said they seemed almost uncomfortable with how happy he naturally was. In one interview with The Big Issue, he put it bluntly, "I think they couldn't cope with me sitting there being happy. They were jealous. I don't know. Imagine being a naturally cheerful kid, and the people around you treat your joy like it's some kind of problem. But instead of breaking him, that upbringing lit a fire under him. If his father's concerts were all about formality and restraint, André's would be all about freedom and joy. If his dad's orchestra kept emotions bottled up, André was going to spill them everywhere, and he made a vow. Not to please his father, but to prove something to himself. He was going to unlock the joy buried inside classical music and share it with the world. He wanted audiences to feel what he felt when he played. The romance, the rhythm, the goosebumps, the pure, unfiltered happiness. And in a way, it's poetic. The love he never got from his father, he poured every drop of it into his violin, and millions of people felt it. He started his professional life playing in traditional orchestras, but the experience was disillusioning. He found his colleagues more interested in union rules than the music itself. It was this unhappiness that served as the final catalyst. In 1987, with the unwavering encouragement of his wife Marjorie, he took the monumental leap of faith that would define his life. He founded his very own Johann Strauss Orchestra. It started small, with just 12 musicians. They were a band of believers united by André's radical vision, to tear down the wall between the stage and the seats, to make classical music a living, breathing, shared experience. This wasn't just a career move. It was the ultimate act of defiance. It was the beginning of an empire, but it was also the beginning of a lifetime of immense, self-inflicted pressure to bring happiness to the world, a mission where failure just wasn't an option.
And here he comes.
Hi, Angus.
Hi.
Welcome. You came all the way from Scotland.
The early years of the Johann Strauss Orchestra were gritty. No massive arenas, no extravagant sets, no headlines, just André Rieu and his small but determined crew hustling through weddings, conferences, and tiny local halls. But even then, they stood out. Because André wasn't just a conductor, he was a full-blown showman. He'd crack jokes with the audience, tell stories, make people laugh, and even get them on their feet to dance, which, in the stiff world of classical music, was basically scandalous. Classical purists clutched their pearls, but for regular people, it was like discovering that classical music could actually be fun. Then came the moment that changed everything. 1995, Champions League semi-final, Ajax versus Bayern Munich. Not exactly the setting where you'd expect to see violins take center stage, but right there at halftime, André and his orchestra played Shostakovich's The Second Waltz, and somehow, in a stadium full of rowdy football fans, he had everyone hooked. It was surreal. That one performance turned him into a national sensation overnight, and from there, the snowball started rolling fast. His albums started flying off the shelves. His concerts got bigger, flashier, and more ambitious. Suddenly, André Rieu wasn't just a violinist. He was the ringmaster of a traveling musical circus dedicated to pure spectacle and joy. But André's ambition had no ceiling. And while that's exactly what made him a global icon, it also nearly destroyed him. His most over-the-top, jaw-dropping project, and the one that almost bankrupted him, was the legendary Schönbrunn Palace Tour. And when I say palace, I don't mean a backdrop or a fancy stage. I mean a full-size, life-sized replica of the actual Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna. We're talking ornate fountains, an ice rink, an actual ballroom with dancers and gowns that looked like they stepped straight out of the 1800s, and a gilded state carriage pulled by real horses. It wasn't just a stage set, it was a traveling city. And while audiences were losing their minds over the spectacle behind the scenes, André was teetering on the edge of financial disaster. The logistical and financial scale was staggering. According to Rieu, the project cost around 35 million euros. The entourage needed to move this colossal set, along with the orchestra and crew, numbering in the hundreds. He had poured everything into this dream, but he miscalculated. While the shows were stunning, ticket sales couldn't cover the astronomical costs. By 2008, the man who was outselling pop stars was facing financial ruin. In his own words, he was almost bankrupt. It was a terrifying time. He described tense meetings with his bankers who were ready to pull the plug. According to Rieu's own telling of the story, of the 8 executives sent to decide his fate, 7 wanted to cut their losses. But a single younger banker argued to let him keep playing, believing it was the only way the bank could ever get its money back. The bank took a gamble on the showman. Rieu was allowed to continue, and the gamble paid off. The following year, he had not only repaid the entire debt, but had reportedly made a profit of 20 million euros. He had stared into the abyss and emerged more successful than ever. This episode is crucial to understanding the man. It reveals a visionary drive so powerful, it borders on reckless, and a belief in his own dream so absolute that it overrides common sense. He promised his wife, Marjorie, he would never take such a risk again. But the experience didn't temper his ambition, it validated it. He had pushed the limits and won. But if you think this was the toughest battle he faced, then keep watching. Because that financial crisis, that was just the opening act. The real fights, the ones that tested him beyond money and success, were still to come.
But when André became seriously sick, there was no other option.
For years, André Rieu's energy seemed infinite. He was a whirlwind of motion, performing up to 100 concerts a year while traveling the globe. He projected an image of invincible joy, a man powered by the music he played. But in 2010, at the height of his fame, the machine came to a screeching halt. He was diagnosed with a viral infection of the vestibular nerve. It's a debilitating condition where a nerve in the inner ear becomes inflamed, causing severe vertigo and a complete loss of balance. For a violinist and conductor, whose entire profession depends on graceful movement and physical control, it's a living nightmare. Rieu was suddenly a prisoner in his own body, unable to even stand up without the world tilting violently. The consequences were immediate. Tours in the UK and Ireland had to be postponed, and his massive production, with its immense monthly overhead, suddenly had no income. From his home, he issued an emotional statement saying he was heartbroken to let his fans down. But beyond the chaos was a profound personal terror. His body had betrayed him. After months of rest and difficult rehabilitation, he eventually recovered. But it was the first undeniable proof that his willpower alone could not sustain his grueling pace. A different kind of tragedy struck in December 2016. During a tour in the United Kingdom, his longtime trombonist, Ruud Merckx, a beloved member of the orchestra since 1994, suffered a massive heart attack in his sleep. Merckx, only 47, was a brilliant musician and cherished friend. He was rushed to a hospital but passed away 5 days later in Maastricht. The devastation within the orchestra was absolute. Rieu immediately canceled the rest of the UK tour. In a statement, he wrote, "Farewell, Ruud. Your golden tones will resonate forever in all of us." This wasn't a logistical problem. It was a profound personal loss. The orchestra wasn't just a group of employees, it was a family, and they had lost one of their own on the road. The incident was a brutal reminder of the human cost of their relentless touring life. These events set the stage for what happened in March of 2024. Now 74, Rieu arrived in Mexico City for a series of 6 sold-out concerts. The city sits at an altitude of over 2,200 meters, a significant physical challenge. He managed to perform 2 concerts, but backstage, a crisis was unfolding. He was hit with an acute bout of influenza, accompanied by a high fever. This time, there was no pushing through. The remaining 4 concerts were canceled. This wasn't just the flu, it was a clear signal. According to the Dutch newspaper De Limburger, a weary Rieu had told his wife on the phone even before the final cancellation, "I really don't want a first concert day of a tour like this anymore. I have to keep listening to my body because I want to keep doing this for a long time." The 2010 illness was a shocking anomaly. The death of Ruud Merckx was a heartbreaking tragedy. But the collapse in Mexico felt like an inevitable end, the culmination of decades of pushing his body past its breaking point. No empire, especially one as demanding as André Rieu's, is built by just one person. While André is the undisputed king, his reign has been made possible by 2 other essential figures who operate largely out of the spotlight: his wife, Marjorie, and his son, Pierre. They are the pillars holding up a kingdom that has become increasingly fragile. Marjorie Rieu is the silent architect of her husband's career. They got married in 1975, long before their global fame. A former teacher, she made a pivotal decision early on, telling her husband she would support the family so he could follow his dream of creating his own orchestra. It was an act of faith that laid the foundation for his success. Her role, however, goes far beyond that of a supportive spouse. While she withdrew from the public eye as André's fame exploded, her influence behind the scenes is absolute. Rieu himself is clear about her importance, having stated that he consults her on the big picture, the music, the themes for new albums, and the show's direction. When the health crisis hit in 2010, it was Marjorie who managed the chaos from their castle, ensuring her husband finally surrendered to the necessity of rest. She is the calm, steadying force, the co-manager of his life, who protects him from his own relentless drive. As André has gotten older, the role of his son, Pierre Rieu, has become increasingly vital. Pierre essentially grew up inside the family business. After a brief 5-week attempt at studying law, he joined André Rieu Productions full-time, realizing his passion was for the family enterprise. Today, he's often described as the vice president or general manager, handling the business side so his father can focus on the creative product. He once noted that his father is the visionary with grand ideas, while he and his mother work to keep things grounded and functional. In recent years, his role has evolved from business manager to protector-in-chief. It's now Pierre who often speaks to the press after a health scare, shielding his father. After the Mexico cancellations, it was Pierre who explained that they were learning from Mexico and that his father's health must come first. There is a clear sense that a transition is underway. Pierre is no longer just helping his father run a company. He's ensuring his father's well-being, the successor who must balance the preservation of a global legacy with the protection of the man at its center. So we arrive at the central, poignant truth of André Rieu's life at 75. The sadness isn't about failure. By any measure, his life is a monumental success. He has sold over 40 million CDs and DVDs, brought classical music to the masses, and achieved the very dream he set for himself as a young man. The sadness, then, is found in the profound and inescapable cost of that dream. It's the sad reality of a man whose entire identity is tied to performing, now being forced to confront the unyielding limits of his own body. The joy he has so generously given to millions has been paid for with immense personal sacrifice, severe financial stress, and health crises that have been both physically and emotionally devastating. His life is a paradox. He built an empire on the image of effortless joy, yet its maintenance requires a grueling, often painful effort. He is the king of the waltz, a dance of graceful movement, yet he has been repeatedly struck down by an ailment that attacks his very balance. He has spent a lifetime creating a fairy tale world, but he can't escape the very real frailties of his own life. The recent events in Mexico were a turning point, reportedly leading to a fundamental rethinking of his future. It seems a new chapter is beginning, one defined not by limitless expansion, but by careful preservation. The goal is no longer just to grow the empire, but to protect the king. His son Pierre is now the visible guardian of the legacy, while his wife Marjorie continues as the silent anchor. The show will go on because the apparatus André built is too large to simply stop. But the man at the center of it all is undeniably changing. He once joked he would perform until he was 140, but reality has presented a much starker timeline. The sadness lies in watching a force of nature finally have to reckon with nature itself. The music may well be eternal, but the man is not. The show must go on. But for André Rieu and the millions who adore him, the biggest question is, for how long? What is your favorite André Rieu memory or performance? Share it with us in the comments below. We'd love to read the stories of the joy he has brought to so many. And if you found this story compelling, don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of the icons you love.